Have you ever felt like you were walking alone through a dark valley? Like life's storms were beating down on you with a force you couldn't bear? Today, I'm going to tell you about a secret few know, a secret that can completely transform your spiritual life and give you the protection you desperately seek. On September 23rd, at exactly midday, there's a prayer Padre Pio recited with special fervor, a prayer he considered so powerful. It could shield a soul for an entire year. But before I reveal this sacred prayer, you need to understand something fundamental. Padre Pio wasn't just any saint. He bore the stigmata of Christ on his own body. He bled daily from the wounds of Jesus. When a man like that prays for protection, the entire heavens pause to listen. Francesco Forgione was born in 1887 in a small Italian town. From childhood, he saw angels and saints as clearly as you see the people around you. It wasn't imagination, it was real, more real than anything you've ever experienced. At 15, he entered the monastery, and there, something extraordinary happened. In 1918, while praying before a crucifix, he received the sacred stigmata, the same wounds Jesus carried on the cross. Imagine for a moment, you're praying in deep devotion, and suddenly your hands begin to bleed, not from injury, but from love, from compassion, from union with Christ. That's what happened to Padre Pio, and for 50 years he carried those wounds. They bled every day, they ached every day, but they also connected him directly to the heart of God. Now you might be wondering, why September 23rd? Why midday? The answer will surprise you. September 23rd marks the moment Padre Pio received his first vision of Saint Michael the Archangel. On that day, the warrior archangel appeared to him and showed him how to fight against the forces of evil that sought to destroy his mission. Saint Michael told Padre Pio, "On this day, every year at midday, when the sun is at its highest point, a gate opens in heaven, and through that gate all prayers offered with true faith reach the throne of God directly." Midday. The moment when shadows disappear, the moment when light completely conquers darkness. Padre Pio understood this was a sacred moment, a moment of concentrated spiritual power, and he developed a specific prayer for this day and this time. But this prayer wasn't like others. It had a unique quality. Padre Pio discovered that when someone prayed this prayer on September 23rd at midday with true faith, Saint Michael the Archangel personally took charge of protecting that person for the entire following year. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. And I understand your hesitation. We live in a world where promises are broken every day. But let me tell you about Maria Giuseppina, an Italian woman who was given up for dead by doctors, terminal cancer. They gave her 3 months to live. On September 23rd, 1962, at midday, she prayed the prayer Padre Pio had taught her. With tears in her eyes, with a broken heart, but with faith that moved mountains. Do you know what happened? But in the following exam, 3 weeks later, there was no sign of the disease. Doctors called it a miracle. Maria Giuseppina called it Saint Michael the Archangel keeping his promise. And that wasn't the only time. Giuseppe Romano, a businessman from Naples, was on the brink of bankruptcy. He owed millions. His family was threatened. He saw no way out. On September 23rd, 1975, he knelt in his small living room and prayed Padre Pio's prayer. The next day, he received an unexpected proposal that not only saved his business, but made him more prosperous than he had ever dreamed. Coincidence? Giuseppe never believed that. He knew St. Michael the Archangel had intervened directly in his life. Now you might be asking, but what exactly is this prayer? How can I access this protection? Padre Pio always said, prayer is the best weapon we have. It's a key that unlocks God's heart. But this specific prayer, the one from September 23rd, he considered more than a weapon. It was a shield that Saint Michael the Archangel placed around those who prayed it with true faith. Do you know why Padre Pio was so sure of this? Because he himself experienced this protection in a dramatic way. In 1943, during World War II, Allied planes were bombing the area where Padre Pio's monastery was located. Bombs were falling everywhere. Houses were destroyed. People were dying, but something inexplicable happened. All the bombs aimed at the monastery simply did not explode. Pilots later reported seeing a gigantic figure clad in armor with a sword of light protecting the place. It was Saint Michael the Archangel, keeping his promise to protect those who were under Padre Pio's prayer. From then on, Padre Pio never doubted the power of this prayer, and he began to teach it to special people. People he sensed had enough faith to receive this grace, but there's something you need to understand before you learn this prayer. It's not a magic formula. It's not a charm. It's an intimate conversation with God, mediated by Saint Michael the Archangel, blessed by Padre Pio himself. For it to work, you need three things. Only three. But these three things are fundamental. First, true faith. Not a faith of convenience. Not a faith that only appears in difficult times. But a faith that recognizes that God is real, that he cares about you, and that he has the power to intervene in your life. Second, a repentant heart. Saint Michael the Archangel does not protect those who deliberately live in sin. Before praying this prayer, you need to make a sincere examination of conscience and ask forgiveness for everything that separates you from God. Third, pure intention. This prayer is not for enrichment, for revenge, for harming others. It is for protection of your soul, your family, your spiritual life. If you have these three things, then you are ready to receive the protection that Saint Michael the Archangel offers through this prayer. Padre Pio used to say, when you pray this prayer on the correct day and time, it's as if Saint Michael the Archangel puts an invisible armor around you, an armor that no evil force can penetrate. But there was a condition that Padre Pio always made sure to mention. The prayer should be said in absolute silence, alone, without distractions, as if it were the most important moment of your life, because, in truth, it is. Imagine for a moment, you are connecting directly with the warrior archangel, the one who cast Lucifer from heaven, the same angel who appeared to Joshua before the Battle of Jericho, the same who announced Jesus' birth to Mary. This moment deserves all your respect, all your focus, all your faith. Padre Pio also taught that after praying, you should feel a specific sensation, a profound sense of peace, as if a huge weight has been lifted from your shoulders. If you don't feel this peace, Padre Pio said, it's because something in your heart still needs purifying before you receive this protection. But when you feel that peace, you know you are protected in a way that transcends human understanding. Teresa Santos, a Brazilian woman living in Italy during the 1960s, witnessed this firsthand. She was going through a terrible time. Her husband had abandoned her. Her children were sick. She didn't have enough money to buy food. On September 23, 1965, she managed to get an audience with Padre Pio. Through tears, she recounted her situation. Padre Pio looked into her eyes and said, "Daughter, at midday today, you will say a prayer that will change your life forever." And he taught her the very same prayer I'm about to teach you. Teresa returned home. At precisely midday, she knelt in her small room and prayed with all the faith remaining in her broken heart. Do you know what happened? That very afternoon, she received a letter. A letter from a distant uncle in Brazil who had passed away, leaving her an inheritance that solved all her financial problems. But more important than the money was what Teresa felt after the prayer. A peace she had never experienced, an absolute certainty that she was no longer alone. And throughout the following year, despite the challenges she still faced, Teresa never again felt that despair, because she knew she was protected. This is the difference this prayer can make in your life. But you might be wondering, if this prayer is so powerful, why isn't it better known? The answer is simple, but it will shock you. Padre Pio only taught this prayer to people he perceived as truly needing it, and he always asked them to keep it a secret during his lifetime. He said, if everyone knew, many would do it out of curiosity, not faith, and that would diminish the prayer's power. It was only after Padre Pio's death in 1968 that some of his spiritual children began to share this prayer, but always with great care, always making sure that the recipient truly understood the responsibility. Because this prayer carries a responsibility. When St. Michael the Archangel protects you for a year, he expects something in return. Not money, not sacrifices, but a life that honors that protection. A life of prayer, a life of charity, a life that reflects God's love in the world. Padre Pio always said, those who receive special protection from St. Michael have a duty to be a light to others. You cannot keep this grace only for yourself. And that's exactly what happens. People who say this prayer and receive this protection often report that they begin to have more compassion for others, more willingness to help, more sensitivity to the spiritual needs around them. It's as if St. Michael the Archangel not only protects you, but also transforms you, makes you an instrument of God in the world. Mariana Oliveira, a nurse from São Paulo, discovered this in practice. After saying the prayer on September 23, 2019, she not only felt protected during the pandemic that followed the next year, but also developed a special ability to comfort dying patients. She recounts that several times, while holding the hand of someone who was departing, she felt a powerful presence beside her, and the patients, who moments before were agitated and afraid, suddenly found peace. It was as if St. Michael was with me, she said, not only protecting me, but using me to bring peace to other people. This is the true nature of St. Michael the Archangel's protection. It's not selfish. It's not just for you. It's a protection that spreads, that touches the people around you. Now, before I reveal the complete prayer, I need to prepare you for the moment you will say it. September 23rd is approaching, and when it arrives, you will have in your hands something that few in the world possess. A spiritual key that can completely transform your life. But first, let me tell you about the last teaching Padre Pio gave about this prayer. It was September 1968, just a few weeks before his death. Padre Pio was very weak, but he still received visitors in his room. A young seminarian named Padre Pellegrino came to visit him. He was going through a terrible crisis of faith. He doubted everything. He doubted God, the church, his own vocation. Padre Pio looked at him and said, "Son, you are being attacked by the enemy because God has great plans for your life. But I will give you a weapon that will end all these attacks." And then, with a weak but firm voice, Padre Pio taught the young priest the prayer of September 23rd. Do you know what happened to Padre Pellegrino? He became one of the most respected exorcists of the Catholic Church. And he always said that everything changed after that prayer. The doubts disappeared, his faith became unshakable, and he developed a spiritual authority that impressed even the most powerful demons. Padre Pellegrino used to say, "When you have the protection of St. Michael through Padre Pio's prayer, even hell trembles. This is the power you are about to receive. But Padre Pio made a final revelation to Padre Pellegrino, a revelation he asked to be shared only when the time was right. That time is now. Padre Pio said, "This prayer is not only for personal protection. When you say it with true faith, you also become an instrument of protection for others. Saint Michael the Archangel uses you to protect your family, your friends, even strangers who cross your path. Imagine this for a moment. You not only receive protection, but you become a channel of protection for others. It's as if Saint Michael the Archangel creates an invisible network of protection, and you become one of the points in that network." Maria da Conceição, a 78-year-old Portuguese woman, experienced this in an extraordinary way. After saying the prayer on September 23, 2010, she began to notice strange things. People who were going through difficult times began to seek her out for no apparent reason. People simply felt drawn to talk with her. And every time someone spoke with Maria da Conceição after she prayed, that person felt an inexplicable peace. Problems that seemed unsolvable suddenly found answers. Maria didn't understand what was happening until one day, during the Rosary, she had a vision of Saint Michael the Archangel. The Archangel told her, "You are now my collaborator. Through you, I protect others. Through your presence, I bring peace." This is the deepest dimension of Padre Pio's prayer. You not only receive, but you also become an instrument of God in the world. Now, the moment you've been waiting for has arrived. The prayer that Padre Pio considered the most powerful for annual protection. But before reciting it, you need to understand exactly how to do it. First, the place. It should be a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. It could be your bedroom, a chapel, even a quiet corner of the living room. The important thing is that it's a place where you feel close to God. Second, the position. Padre Pio always recommended doing it on your knees. If you can't kneel due to health problems, you can sit, but with a respectful posture, hands clasped together. Third, the exact time, 12 noon on September 23rd. Not a minute before, not a minute after. Padre Pio said the precision of the time was crucial to connect with the specific spiritual energy of that moment. Fourth, inner preparation. Before beginning the prayer, take 3 deep breaths. With each breath, release a worry, a fear, an anxiety. Empty your heart of everything that is not God. And now, here is the sacred prayer that Padre Pio prayed on September 23rd. Saint Michael the Archangel, Prince of the heavenly hosts, who by God's command didst cast into hell Satan and the other rebellious spirits, I implore thee, defend me in this battle of life. Be my refuge against the snares and ambushes of the devil, through the intercession of the servant of God, Padre Pio, who bore the stigmata of Christ and knew of your apparitions. I ask you, place around me on this sacred day a spiritual armor that will protect me throughout this coming year. Protect my soul from all sin, protect my body from all sickness, protect my mind from all confusion, protect my heart from all despair. Let no evil force touch me. Let no temptation overcome me. Let no sadness bring me down. Let no fear paralyze me. Saint Michael, warrior of God, make me also a warrior. Not a warrior of violence, but a warrior of love. Not a warrior of vengeance, but a warrior of forgiveness. Not a warrior of pride, but a warrior of humility. May I be, through your protection, a light to others. May my protected life be a testament to the power of God. May my peace be contagious to all who surround me. Through Christ our Lord, through the intercession of Padre Pio, and through your powerful protection, Saint Michael the Archangel. Amen. After finishing this prayer, Padre Pio taught that you should remain in absolute silence for at least 5 minutes. Don't think about anything. Just feel the presence of Saint Michael the Archangel around you. It is in this moment of silence that the protection is sealed. It is in this moment that St. Michael the Archangel accepts your request and places around you the spiritual armor that will last for an entire year. Many people report that during these 5 minutes of silence, they feel a physical presence around them. Some feel a gentle warmth, others feel a light breeze. Some even perceive a golden light, even with their eyes closed. Don't worry if you don't feel anything physical. The protection is being granted even if you don't perceive it physically. St. Michael the Archangel works in the spiritual world, which sometimes our physical senses cannot grasp. But there is an unmistakable sign that the prayer has been accepted. In the days following September 23rd, you will notice a difference in your spiritual life. Temptations that were once difficult to resist will become weaker. The fears that once paralyzed you will lose strength. The worries that once consumed you will become lighter. It's as if an invisible film has been placed between you and all the negative energies of the world. Padre Luigi Benedetti, who was Padre Pio's confessor for years, documented hundreds of cases of people who prayed this prayer and experienced dramatic changes in their lives. He recounts the case of Antonio Rossi, a man who suffered from depression for over 10 years. No medication worked. No therapy yielded results. After praying on September 23, 1955, Antonio never had another depressive episode. And this wasn't just the absence of illness, it was the presence of joy, a joy he had never experienced before. Antonio said, "It's as if St. Michael had expelled all the demons of sadness that lived in my soul." Or the case of Giovanna Martinelli, a woman who lived in constant fear, afraid to leave the house, afraid to talk to people, even afraid of her own shadow. After the prayer, the fear simply disappeared, not gradually, all at once, as if someone had lit a powerful light and all the shadows had fled instantly. Giovanna became one of the bravest women in her town. She dedicated her life to helping others suffering from anxiety and fear. These are not isolated cases. They are examples of a pattern that has been repeated for decades. The protection of St. Michael the Archangel through Padre Pio's prayer is not just real. It is transformative. But there's something more you need to know. This protection is not static. It grows with your faith. The more you trust in St. Michael's protection, the more powerful it becomes. The more you give thanks for this protection, the more encompassing it becomes. Padre Pio always said, "Gratitude is the key that multiplies God's graces." Therefore, after praying on September 23rd, make it a habit to thank St. Michael the Archangel every day. It doesn't have to be a long prayer. It can be something simple like, "St. Michael the Archangel, thank you for protecting me today. Thank you for warding off all evil from my life." This daily gratitude strengthens the connection between you and the warrior archangel. And a strong connection means even more powerful protection. Roberto Silva, a Brazilian businessman, discovered this in practice. After praying in 2018, he began to thank St. Michael every day before bed. In the first year, he noticed that problems that normally stressed him out greatly simply resolved themselves surprisingly easily. In the second year, people around him began to comment that he seemed shielded against negative energies. People felt a sense of calm in his presence, truly remarkable. In his third year, Roberto developed an astounding spiritual intuition. He could sense when something bad was about to happen, and always found a way to avoid it. "It's as if St. Michael made me a spiritual detective," Roberto recounts. "I just know when something isn't right, and I always receive inspiration on how to protect myself." This is the natural evolution of St. Michael the Archangel's protection. It doesn't just passively protect you, it makes you active in your own protection. You develop what mystics call spiritual discernment, the ability to distinguish between what comes from God and what comes from the enemy. And this is fundamental in the times we live in. Never in human history have we been so exposed to negative influences. Social media that fuels envy and anger, news that plants constant fear, entertainment that normalizes violence and immorality. It's a constant bombardment against our souls, but when you have the protection of Saint Michael the Archangel, it's as if you have a spiritual filter. Negative influences simply cannot penetrate your soul. You may be exposed to the same things that previously negatively affected you, but now they have no power over you. Carmen Rodriguez, a Mexican teacher, experienced this in a striking way. She worked in a very difficult school, in a violent area of Mexico City. Every day she faced aggression, disrespect, a heavy atmosphere. After praying Padre Pio's prayer, Carmen continued working at the same school. But something changed. The students' aggression no longer affected her. The heavy atmosphere no longer brought her down. Even more impressive, the students themselves began to behave better in her presence, as if St. Michael's protection created a field of peace around Carmen. In 2 years, Carmen's classroom became known as the Room of Peace in the school. Other teachers asked to observe her classes to understand how she managed to keep the students calm. Carmen never revealed the secret. But she knew it was Saint Michael the Archangel working through her. Now you might be wondering, what if I miss the date? What if I can't say the prayer exactly on September 23rd at midday? Padre Pio had an answer for that. He said that if, for a serious reason, you couldn't say the prayer on the correct day, Saint Michael the Archangel, in his infinite mercy, would accept the prayer up to 3 days later. But only if it was for a really serious reason, illness, family emergency, a force majeure situation. If it was just forgetfulness or laziness, the prayer would lose its special power. It would have the value of a common prayer, but it wouldn't have the specific power of annual protection. Therefore, Padre Pio always recommended that people prepare in advance, mark it on their calendar. Ask someone to remind them. This prayer can change your life forever, he said. Don't let forgetfulness or haste steal this opportunity from you. And there's another important detail that Padre Pio always mentioned. The prayer can be said for other people. If you have a young child, you can say the prayer asking for their protection. If you have a spouse who doesn't believe, you can say the prayer asking for their protection too. But there's a condition. You can only ask for protection for people you truly love. People for whom you would be willing to give your own life. Saint Michael the Archangel knows the human heart. He knows when a request comes from true love and when it comes from mere courtesy or self-interest. Silvia Nascimento, a Brazilian mother, said the prayer in 2015 asking for protection for her 15-year-old son who was getting involved with bad company. Throughout the following year, every time her son tried to do something dangerous or harmful, something happened that prevented him. A friend would cancel plans at the last minute. It would rain at the exact moment. The bus would be late. At the end of the year, the boy himself commented to his mother, "Mom, it's strange. It seems like someone is protecting me. Every time I was going to do something stupid, something stopped me." Sylvia smiled and said, "Someone is protecting you, son. Someone very powerful." This is the beauty of Padre Pio's prayer. It not only protects you, but it can also protect those you love. Now, let me tell you about the last secret of this prayer, a secret that Padre Pio only revealed to his closest spiritual children. The prayer doesn't just protect you during the year, it also prepares you for a holy death. Padre Pio believed that the greatest protection Saint Michael the Archangel can give someone is to ensure that at the moment of death, that person is not attacked by the devil. He said, "The devil makes a final attack at the time of death. That's when he desperately tries to steal a soul from God. But if you have Saint Michael's protection, this attack cannot touch you. Dom Francesco Neri, an Italian bishop who was very close to Padre Pio, documented several cases of people who said this prayer annually and had extraordinarily peaceful deaths. They not only died without fear, but many reported in their final moments that they could see St. Michael the Archangel at their bedside, expelling any evil presence. One of these people was Donna Isabella Conti, an Italian woman who said Padre Pio's prayer for 23 consecutive years. When she was dying at 87 years old, her family noticed something amazing. Although she was very weak physically, her face radiated an indescribable peace. In her last hours, she kept her eyes fixed on a specific point in the room, smiling. When they asked what she was seeing, she whispered, "Michael is here. He is protecting me. I am not afraid." And she died, smiling. This is the ultimate protection of Saint Michael the Archangel. The guarantee that when your time comes, you will not be alone. You will be protected by the most powerful of God's angels. But this protection in death is only granted to those who have lived under the protection of Saint Michael during their life. Hence the importance of saying this prayer every year, always on September 23rd. Each year you say the prayer, you renew your alliance with Saint Michael the Archangel, and this alliance becomes stronger with each renewal. Padre Pio used to say, "Those who say this prayer for 7 consecutive years receive a special grace. Saint Michael the Archangel becomes their constant companion, not just their protector." This means that, after 7 years, you develop a permanent connection with the warrior archangel. You can feel his presence in moments of decision. You can ask for his help in specific situations. You may even receive direct inspiration from him. Dr. Marco Antonelli, an Italian physician, experienced this firsthand after 7 years of reciting the prayer. He recounts how he began to have extraordinary medical intuitions. He could diagnose illnesses that other doctors couldn't identify. He knew exactly which treatment would work for each patient, but even more impressive, he began to perceive when a patient was under spiritual attack, not just physical ailment. And in these cases, he would discreetly pray to Saint Sue, Michael the Archangel, and the patient would always inexplicably improve. Marco became known as the miracle doctor in his town. But he knew it wasn't his medical knowledge that made the difference. It was his partnership with St. Michael the Archangel. This is the promise St. Michael the Archangel makes to those faithful to Padre Pio's prayer. He not only protects, but also empowers. He not only defends, but also strengthens. You become more than protected. You become a collaborator with God in the world. And that's exactly what the world needs today. People protected by St. Michael the Archangel, working as instruments of God to bring light where there is darkness, peace where there is conflict, hope where there is despair. Perhaps that's precisely why this prayer has reached you today. Perhaps St. Michael the Archangel is calling you to become one of his collaborators on earth. Perhaps God has specific plans for your life. Plans that can only be realized if you are under the special protection of the warrior archangel. Think about it for a moment. Of all the people in the world, you were one of the few who learned about this prayer today. This is no coincidence. It's divine providence. Saint Michael the Archangel is extending his hand to you. He is offering his protection, his companionship, his strength. All you need to do is accept. All you need to do is, on September 23rd at midday, kneel in a quiet place and say this prayer with all the faith in your heart, and your life will never be the same. Because when you have St. Michael the Archangel as your protector, You don't just survive life's storms, you traverse them with strength, with courage, with peace. When you have Saint Michael the Archangel as your companion, you don't just avoid evil, you become an instrument of good. When you have Saint Michael the Archangel as your guide, you don't just live, you flourish. And when it's time to leave this earth, you won't depart alone. You will be escorted by the most powerful of angels, straight into the arms of the Father. This is the promise. This is the grace. This is the opportunity that lies before you. The question that remains is simple. Will you accept? On September 23rd, at midday, Saint Michael the Archangel will be waiting. Padre Pio will be interceding. And God will be ready to bless you with a protection that will change your life forever. The choice is yours. But remember Padre Pio's words, don't let fear or doubt steal from you the greatest opportunity for protection you can have in this life. Saint Michael the Archangel, Prince of the heavenly hosts, defend us in battle, and may he defend you, especially starting next September 23rd. Forever. Amen.